where it used to be 3 strikes and you're out. It's almost as if now you're only allowed 1 and then you can't come back from it. And is that the kind of society we want to live in? Hi guys, and welcome back to LVH Talks. I hope you're all doing well. Please feel free to comment on today's subject, which is about cancel culture and whether or not we're losing the right to have an opinion. I think it's quite a big subject today. It's one that I've been wanting to talk about and wanting to do for a while. It's actually one of the main reasons why I started this channel in the first place, because unless you've been living under a rock, you may have noticed that certain people have been getting cancelled due to having an opinion that a lot of other people or a group of people disagreed with. So I wanted to open this up because to me, I'm big on free speech, at least the old-fashioned definition of having free speech, and I think it's important for all of us to have an opinion on important subjects. It's how we function, it's how we get by, it's how we progress as well. But I think having respect for other people's opinions is important, even if it differs from your own. Now, cancel culture. It's kind of got a life of its own now, hasn't it? It's sort of taken over, and I think a lot of people are genuinely scared of it now. They're scared of the repercussions that will come from having an opinion. And like I said, that worries me. So, what do you think? Are we losing the right to have an opinion? Now, one of the most recent ones that I can think of that I think got a lot of publicity was J.K. Rowling. I don't know if you heard about it, but she experienced her own version of cancellation because she put forward an opinion that I believe was around women that also incorporated transgender people. And she got a lot of stick for that. And in fact, I think a lot of people ended up turning their backs, including fans of the Harry Potter series, as well as the actors, or some of the actors that were actually in the Harry Potter films, including, I think, Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson. I think a few people turned their backs after hearing what it was that she had to say. And I think it was one of probably the biggest that's happened recently. Now, is it that, was it that what she said was very wrong? Or was it that what she said was not entirely in agreement with what other people are saying, and therefore people kicked up a fuss? Where is that line? Because like I said, we don't want to get to a point where we ignore discrimination or inequality. We want to sort these problems and these issues out, of course we do. And we don't want to tolerate, any kind of bullying or any kind of discrimination. But has that line been a bit blurred now? That's what I'm wondering. Has it been a bit blurred? Are what these people who are being cancelled, are they actually saying anything offensive? Is it objective? Is it offensive to some but not offensive to others? Where is that line now? Because I feel like it's very, very blurred. I think it's hard to now tell, or it seems hard for people to be able to tell now whether what has been said is actually an offensive comment that deserves to be, picked up on, and she needs to be called out for, or the people that do these things need to be called out for. Or whether or not they just had an opinion that was slightly different because it didn't fit into the norm, so to speak. People are kind of saying that they're offended when really what they're saying is that I disagree with you. So I'm wondering where that line is now, because it is a bit blurred in comparison to, I think, where it was a few years ago. So is it just that we have become more strict on what we will and won't tolerate? Is that where we're at now? Because I know that we're currently going through a phase, or, we've progressed to a phase where boundaries are very much at the forefront of people's minds and self-respect are at the forefront of people's minds. And that's great, because I think that although there are still a lot of self-esteem issues and, unhealthy relationships and boundaries that are still a bit blurred, that we're still figuring out, I do think this is an age of people becoming more independent, people standing up for themselves, people really just not allowing themselves to be mistreated. And that is all wonderful, and I think should definitely be something that carries on. But is it that we're just becoming more strict on what we're tolerating, or is it that we just have zero tolerance left for mistakes, or that we are almost too quick to rule people out and to dismiss people at the first sign of them taking a left turn? Are we lacking forgiveness now? It seems to me that where it used to be 3 strikes and you're out, it's almost as if now you're only allowed 1 and then you can't come back from it. And is that the kind of society we want to live in? I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's the one I want to live in, because I do think, like we've been talking about in the other videos, balance is definitely needed. With probably most subjects that I'm going to bring up, balance is the solution. We do need to have boundaries. We do need to call people out when they, make a mistake, or when they do something that, is quite offensive or insulting. But we also need to remain understanding, remain forgiving. Remember that human beings aren't perfect and are not going to get it right all the time. And I think that this also comes back to communication, which I am actually going to discuss in terms of language in another video. That especially with the internet and technology, miscommunication can happen so much more frequently. If you're not talking to someone face to face, it's very easy to get the wrong end of the stick. It's very easy to misjudge how someone meant something or what their intention behind it was. It's very easy to do that if you're not actually in person with them and it's just via a screen with words on it. So it's very easy for one person to take it one way and one person to take it another way, Everyone can look at these types of communication differently. And so it's also important to remember that although it may feel, you may feel offended by what someone says or how someone says it, to try and understand their perspective, I think, is important. If nothing else, you don't have to agree, you don't have to like it, but I think to try and understand where that person's coming from, I think is not only helpful to relationships, it's helpful with progression, it's helpful with your own personal development. Because at the end of the day, if you're never challenging yourself by looking at other people's opinions and other people's perspectives, you're not going to progress very far. Because that's how we do it, right? That's how we grow, that's how we learn, is by listening to other people. And so if we never do that, and we never challenge ourselves in that way, we will remain stuck and we will, remain stagnant. So I feel like there is a bit of a worry here that we have lost the ability to forgive and to understand, even when it's at its most difficult. I think that that's kind of slipping away slightly, and we're very quick now to judge, and we're very quick to demonize people for the words that they use sometimes and label them as this, that, and the other. We're very quick to label people based on maybe one mistake they've made, or, you know, something that we've misinterpreted in terms of what their intentions were with that comment. So it's difficult. It's very, very difficult, because you want them boundaries, you want respect, but you also want to understand, we want to forgive. Because I always think, imagine if it was you and you'd put a comment out there, or you'd said something to someone, and you knew what your intentions were, and you knew your intentions weren't to offend. And to be honest with you, I don't think the majority of people intend to offend anyone. There'll be some people out there who absolutely do, and I'm not denying that. But I think the majority of people do not want to hurt others and do not want to offend anyone. We've all been in situations where that's been reversed, and so I can't see how we would go out there and try and do that to other people. But regardless, I do think that when you think about it as though it could be you, you know, that you could have said one sentence that you meant in one way but was taken another, and then you had a lot of people turn on you and start dismissing you and question your character, I think it's a bit easier to empathise with those that are put in that position. And it's not to just, you know, forget if they have said something wrong or said something insulting or offensive. It's not to dismiss that or forget about it or pretend that it didn't happen. But it's more, again, forgiveness, acknowledging what's happened, but also having the ability to give someone a second chance, or to, you know, again, just to come from a more empathetic side of yourself, I think is so important, so important. And I also think as well, something else I was thinking about with cancel culture is, does this also show the power of the public now and what they can accomplish? Because at one time or another, and again, I still see this with other circumstances, at one time or another, sorry guys if you heard that, that was my laptop, it was very difficult for the public to have any influence over powerful people, right? It was very difficult for people to kind of have any say. Whereas because of the introduction to social media, it's very easy to put your opinion out there and to let it be known. And so in terms of cancel culture, you know, it's the public that are creating cancel culture. There's this wave. And does it show that there is more power in the people now? There is more power when it comes to the public. Do they have more influence now than they used to, due to what they're able to make happen in someone else's life, due to a comment, right? Not even some scandal, but really just words. Through words, people seem to have a lot of power. So it is an interesting topic, but I think my biggest concern is that we're losing our ability to forgive, and that we are in some ways losing the right to have an opinion, that unless it is the right opinion, we're not allowed to have it and we're not allowed to speak it. And I think that in a way that is also losing the right to free speech. But what is your opinion? Please send me some comments below on what you think. I'll look forward to reading them, and I'll speak to you all again soon. Bye.